The live-action remake of Avatar: The Last Airbender is hitting Netflix, and it had some people like,
"Oh my god, Angry Boat!"
I, for one, am quietly looking forward to it, because from the look of the trailers, it looks good. But I'm still pretty cautious, because this, of course, isn't the first time a live-action Avatar project has hit our screens. And from all accounts, M. Night Shyamalan's Last Airbender movie is not very good. And despite my Avatar fanboy inside me, I have never watched this movie. Believe me, I've heard a lot about it since then. I've seen the video essays, I've seen the breakdowns, I've seen the critiques, but I've never seen the movie myself. Now, this is one of the most shit-on movies in the history of YouTube, so I know that if I talk about it, I'm most likely just beating a dead horse, but I just got here and started making videos, so let me talk about it. So to celebrate the live-action Netflix series coming out, I decided to sit down with my good buddy Tempest and watch the movie together. He gets to relive his trauma from when he was younger, and I get to watch this movie for the first time ever. And guys, it's worse than I thought. And it goes without saying, spoilers for the whole movie. Obviously. I'll be throwing in some clips from when we watched it together along with my review, but if you want to see the full thing and watch it along with us, then you can, over on my brand new Patreon page. That's right, I've got a Patreon now. There's just two tiers, £1 and £3. The £1 tier will get you some behind-the-scenes stuff, previews of upcoming videos and updates, and the £3 tier is the same, but you also get your name in the credits. So if you like what I'm doing with this channel so far and you want to see more, check out the Patreon linked in the description. I would really appreciate it. It's patreon.com/Pete Repeat. Thank you. With all that said, I'm Pete from Pete Repeat, and strap yourself in for the wild ride that is The Last Airbender. The bad one. So the movie starts with the iconic opening from the TV show, with benders using their elements: water, earth, fire, air. Except they don't say that. We're too busy being in awe and amazed by the incredible bending on our screen. Which brings me to the first thing I don't like about this movie. They don't know how bending works! Like, look at this random martial arts posing they're doing. There is absolutely no connection between the movements they're making and the element being bended. All they're doing is dancing. And this goes for the whole movie. One of the most unique things about the Avatar universe is elemental bending, and they have no idea how it works. And I know, in adaptations, changes have to be made. You can't condense an entire season that has a runtime of around 6.5 hours into an hour-and-a-half movie without some changes. But this change actually makes any bending scene longer. If you were gonna change it, you'd think you'd at least change it to something that makes it quicker. I'm getting ahead of myself here. How much time has passed in the movie? 1 minute. Boy, fucking howdy. We then get an opening title crawl, which is slow and boring and unnecessary and bad and slow and boring and bad.
I also really like the insinuation that all of them are nomads, because they just say the water, earth, fire, and air nomads.
And we are finally introduced to our main characters, Katara and Sokka. And look, I know, everyone on the internet knows that they pronounce the names wrong. But it's still bad.
That's right, I'm Sokka. It's pronounced with an aka.
Soka.
Soka?
General Iroh.
My name is Iro.
Iro?
I'm Aang. The monks named me Ong.
Ong? But you'd think that maybe it's just the characters' names they get wrong and, you know, whatever, their names are different in the movie. But it's not just the names.
Is that a challenge?
An Agni Kai at sunset.
Then Prince Zuko was sentenced to an Agni Ki duel.
Agni Ki? Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but that is only wrong. In what universe does a word spelt K-A-I be pronounced as Ki? So Kataro gives us some exposition about how her mum died and her dad left to fight in the war. She also says,
"Food is scarce. My brother and I often go hunting for food."
She said food twice.
The two uncover an iceberg, break it open, and there's a boy inside. Who is this boy? We don't know, and the movie doesn't tell us. But don't worry, we teleport across back to their home to have their first conversation. This will be the trio of the entire story, the unbreakable group of heroes, Aang, Sokka, and Katara. Or, in this movie, Ong, Sokka, and Jotaro. And this is the entirety of their first conversation, which isn't even the trio because Sokka isn't there.
How'd you get all the way out here?
I ran away from home. We got in a storm. We were forced under the water of the ocean.
Oh, I see.
It wasn't very smart. I was just upset. Thanks for saving me.
Lucky.
I probably should get home. I'll be worried.
You're not still upset?
Not as much as I was.
What is going on? This is the first time you've met this boy. Ask him what his name is. It's the normal first question. Who are you? It's the first thing you ask. It's the first thing. This is chef's kiss cringe. Not only do the actors not have any compatibility with their acting, the lines are horrible, the directing is bad, everything in this scene is impeccable in how poorly executed it is. Not to mention, we are then introduced to Zuko, and hey, they pronounce his name right. He's joined by the Fire Navy soldiers who, well, they sure look threatening. I'm sure they'll do something at some point. Nope, they're just gonna run around.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
But despite Aang's best efforts to stay hidden, he gets discovered by this Fire Nation soldier.
Why would he do that?
Yeah. Really, why would you think to do that?
Why would you think to unhood a child?
Zuko yells at Aang to tell him his name, which Aang refuses because why would the audience want to know the name of our protagonist?
I don't need to tell you anything.
Airbender!
Man, this kid won't break.
That sounded like that's just like a swear for him. It's just like, I don't need to tell you anything. And instead of him just going, fuck, he just goes, firebenders!
I don't need to tell you anything.
Aang gets taken away onto the ship and they lay out the elements in front of him and the elements react to his presence, for he is the Avatar.
What is he, fucking magnetic? What's going on?
He's fucking Magneto. Like, this isn't how the fucking Avatar works.
Meanwhile, Sokka and Katsukari are lamenting Aang being taken away, and say they have to get him back because he's their responsibility, despite Sokka having not even one conversation with him, and Katrina only having one, which was only exposition, and they don't even know his name. Aang escapes from the ship, reunites with Sokka and Catamaran, and they fly to the Southern Air Temple where they finally learn Aang's name.
Is it okay if you tell me your name?
The monks named me Aang.
You traveled with this kid for weeks and you didn't ask his name?
What were you talking about for those, 2 weeks on
right?
on Appa?
You've been traveling for fucking ages.
You didn't ask his name, and you didn't fill him in at all until you got here that he might not see his friends again.
So Aang discovers that, he's been in the ice for 100 years and all his friends are dead. This is a really powerful moment in the show, built up to over the course of a whole episode where Aang is in complete denial about what's happened, until he sees irrefutable proof of his friends passing in the form of genocide. But here, I feel nothing, because I don't know this person, I don't understand the different cultures, and the fact that he's been in the iceberg for 100 years has been mentioned in passing at this very moment. There is no weight to this scene at all. And then Aang finds a skeleton of his dead friend.
How does he manage to find this one specific skeleton in a field of skeletons?
Well, he's magnetically drawn to stuff,
Oh,
so,
yeah, I
so it
see.
must be that.
He then transports to the spirit world. A dragon talks to him where Aang doesn't say anything and then he comes back. What was the point of this scene? We didn't establish anything apart from the fact that this dragon spirit exists. That is it. We already knew about the spirit world existing courtesy of Gran expositioning all over us earlier with the map.
What, you think you're some kind of Jedi waving your hand around like that?
We're then introduced to the pizza guy from Spider-Man 2, and he mocks Zuko for being banished by his father. Tee-hee, what a little stinker he is. And Zuko beats up some people to let out his anger. And it's at this point, you might start to realize, firebenders in this movie can't produce their own fire. Now, granted, in the show, firebenders are the only ones who can produce their own element. Waterbenders can bend the water around them, earthbenders bend the earth around them, and airbenders bend the air around them. But firebenders Firebenders can make their own fire. They're cool as fuck, because needing to have fire around you 24/7 is a real hindrance. So in the movie, naturally, Firebenders can't make their own fire unless you're under the power of Sozin's comet or you're just really good at firebending. And, you know, I don't agree with it, I don't think it's a good change, but it's not world-breaking or inherently stupid. I think it could lead to some nice moments in the movie, or in the sequels we're definitely getting, where it gives a character or characters a sense of progression and reaching milestones when they finally unlock the ability to create fire. I could see that being a really cool thing. Unless, of course, there already is an ability from the show that only the best firebenders can do that actually serves the story much better, considering the ways it's both mastered and countered, in which the world building is actually furthered, as well as reinforcing the idea of looking past cultural differences to work together for a brighter future. If only an ability like that already existed. Oh yeah. Lightning serves what I would assume is the same purpose as firebenders not being able to create their own fire in this movie, in that it's something only the best firebenders can do. Ozai, Azula, and Iroh are the only people we ever see do it. But then the way to redirect lightning that Iroh creates is perfect because he made it after studying waterbending. You are literally superior to others if you combine techniques from other cultures with your own. But in the movie, if firebenders mastered the ability to create their own fire, then sure, they're good at firebending. But it doesn't further any other world building. This change makes the world building worse. It's a bad change. Plus, the only moment we get of someone creating their own fire is Iroh at the end of the movie, and yeah, it's used somewhat effectively. He looks pretty intimidating when he does it, but it leads to nothing. So anyway, getting back on track, the heroes are now in the Earth Kingdom, where they encounter a little boy who's being arrested for earthbending.
He can bend Earth?
In the Earth Kingdom?
Kathmandu fails at waterbending, the heroes get arrested and get taken to this prison for earthbenders. Now, I know, this has been spoken about a lot, but you cannot fathom the levels of stupidity this movie goes to when the Fire Nation puts its earthbending prisoners inside a prison made of Earth. They can quite literally earthbend their way out of this place at any moment, anytime they like. Aang reveals that he's the Avatar to the Earthbenders, and they start fighting back with some real special-looking CGI. You know, maybe the Earthbenders were right not to fight back. If it takes 6 dudes to bend this tiny little rock, then they're way outmatched. But Sokka gets the moment of this scene, and arguably the entire movie, with this move right here.
Oh, it's so much worse than I thought.
To throw one medium-sized rock.
After a weird fade that makes it look like a bunch more time has passed than it actually has, we cut back to this shot where the heroes get a scroll. Ooh.
The Fire Nation took this scroll from a member of your water tribe.
And they stashed it here in the Earth Kingdom.
Cut back to the Fire Nation, which is looking very green. I'm not seeing a lot of fire here. Look, I don't want to compare everything to the show, but the Fire Lord's palace in the show is literally inside a volcano. It's a really cool set piece. It makes it feel important and special and different. But here, this is just a field with some trees. It's a bad establishing shot because I don't even know what's being established. If it wasn't for the text telling us we're in the Fire Nation, you would have no idea where we are right now because it looks exactly the same as the Earth Kingdom. God, whew. I'm fine. This character we don't know the name of yet is speaking to this other character we don't know the name of yet about an event that's unimportant. And really, that sentence could sum up the whole movie. Every character is either unnamed or unimportant, talking about things that don't matter. Regardless, they're here talking, walking through this hall, stopping, talking, walking, stopping, and talking. And it's at this point you may realize that this is supposed to be Fire Lord Ozai. Yes, this man is the Fire Lord. Now look, I know not every casting choice is going to be a 100% match, but this man is the Fire Lord. This man, Fire Lord. This guy, Fire Lord. Do you see the difference here? Not to mention that his introductory scene is him just walking into frame having an unimportant conversation with another character we don't know the name of yet, when he has two scenes that work as better introductory scenes that come later in the movie. It is so hard to convey what I mean if you haven't seen the movie yourself, but everything in this movie is so amateurish. As Tempest said in our watch-along, everything feels like the first try, the script is the first draft, the shots are all the first take, every edit was someone's first go. Absolutely everything in this movie feels like it was done once and never again. We then get this scene of Iroh talking to Zuko, where Iroh is telling him to back off from his chase of the Avatar. Settle down, start a new life. And this heartfelt conversation is taking place in Fire Nation Colony 15.
You could fall in love here. We could settle down here.
Your home could be Fire Nation Colony 15.
So Zuko interrogates and forces a little kid to tell Zuko his own backstory.
Agni Kidor.
And then we get this scene of Aang and Kathleen failing at waterbending, including this nausea-inducing cut.
I'd be back in less than a day.
Why?
What?
And then it's nighttime and nothing has been resolved because this movie is the first draft. Aang is succeeding and then fails at waterbending because he has PTSD from the genocide of his people. And okay, right, there is an element of story here. It's obviously not quite what happens in the show, but if you want to tell the story that Aang's waterbending progress is being cut off because he can't get past the people that he's lost, that's a pretty solid plot. Except, just one little thing.
That's not the plot of the movie!
There are two scenes where Aang doesn't waterbend correctly and instead gets flashbacks of his people, and in total, combined, they last 2 minutes and 21 seconds. 2 minutes and 21 seconds. That's the plot of your movie? Maybe you should spend a little more time on that and less time on the bending. Anyway, Aang flies off to get help for his waterbending and goes to the Northern Air Temple where he bumps into a monk. That's a pretty big deal, right? Like their entire culture was wiped out before. Aang seeing a monk again must have a pretty big effect on him. No, obviously not. The monk actually isn't a monk, but, I mean, he sure looks like one. He says instead that he is an Earth villager.
I'm an Earth villager.
I'm sorry, he just said, I'm an Earth villager. From a nondescript place in the Earth Kingdom.
From Earth Village 15.
From Earth Village 15!
So the monk, not a monk, but maybe a monk, shows Aang all his past lives in statue form, while Aang expositions all over us again about how he became the Avatar. No time for any of those emotions though, because Aang gets captured by a bunch of soldiers that were stationed here behind every single statue, and they weren't seen, and the villager betrayed him and lured him here, but how did the villager know he was going to come here? It wasn't even in their travel plans. Aang just came of his own accord to get some help. How did they manufacture this trap? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Aang gets captured and taken away, and Zhao berates him a bit before the scene just ends with absolutely no conclusion, much like every other scene in the movie. This other character, who we don't know, shows up to save Aang, and we have some of the worst action scenes in the movie, courtesy of these wonderful, lovely one-take action shots. Aang could get away, but decides to return to help this other mysterious figure, who seemed to be doing just fine by himself, and the two get out. When an archer makes a shot that literally no person could ever make, despite being told not to kill the Avatar, and in no way that being possible to know when he makes the shot, Aang decides to throw in some cloud cover so they can get away, and the Fire Nation soldiers who run after them stop running because there's clouds now?
Clouds?
They get away, we get another pointless scene that's supposed to be reminiscent of the show but lacks literally any of the emotion and context, and we zoom on to the next scene of Zhao telling the Fire Lord that this person called the Blue Spirit is his son, Zuko, which he knows despite having absolutely no evidence whatsoever, and Zuko being masked specifically to hide his identity. And then the scene just ends.
You think my son is this person the soldiers are calling the Blue Spirit?
Yes.
Zuko then gets blown up on his ship. Aang reunites with Sokka and Cat Stevens off screen, and they arrive in the North Pole because we have no time for emotions. We need the things to happen in this movie. They introduce themselves to the princess in voiceover, and they say that Sokka and the princess became friends right away. As you can see from the friendship they're having. Look at the friendship. Zhao is then a dick to Iroh, cut back to the heroes, and we're told that Sokka and the princess have now spent weeks together. Weeks. Would have been really great to maybe see some of that time so we can invest in their relationship or something, but no, ain't no time for that. We need to have this one supposedly heartfelt emotional scene that is actually only used as exposition to foreshadow her death later. Next cut, time for Aang and Hamtaro to do some Tai Chi for no reason, but then everything changed when the Fire Nation arrived in the North Pole and did a siege of the city. That seems about right for this movie. The soot rains down. Aang decides he needs to meditate and talk to the dragon spirit again for absolutely no reason, so he needs a spiritual place. But luckily, there is a spiritual place, and the city was built around this place. And if you think I just said the word place too many times, that's actually a quote from the movie.
Is there a spiritual place where I can meditate?
There is a very spiritual place. The city was built around this place.
Aang meditates, Sokka and the princess leave to go make out or something, and Chris Kamara defends Aang from Zuko, who's arrived to take him away. She fails because she still sucks at waterbending, while we see the siege of the rest of the cities going on, including these neat little drill hats. I like them.
Are those fucking hats? They drill up their hats?
I think I've seen Mario use one of those.
Sokka and the princess come back despite us not seeing a reason for them to ever leave in the first place, and Kazani explains to Sokka that Prince Zuko is here in the city, and Sokka's like, "Who?" Aang gets advice from the dragon spirit, who says, "Your people died, get over it," which I don't think is supposed to be the lesson here, but it works, and Aang wakes up and fights Zuko. He gets away, Karachi puts Zuko on ice, and Aang joins the fight with this weird little action scene. Meanwhile, Zhao bags up the moon spirit, which is a fish, and Iroh doesn't like it.
There are certain things humankind should not tamper with. The spirits in the spirit world is one of them.
There's two things.
Zhao shanks the fish, Iroh shows off his impressive firebending and the fact that he can create fire from nothing, which is used for no reason at all. Probably would have been good to use that to stop Zhao from killing the fish, maybe? But then the heroes realize that the princess can give her life back to the moon spirit, and Sokka says,
"You wait, please."
Now you may notice that this is the first time her name has been mentioned. She's just been the princess. Now you're telling me her name right before she's about to die? She gives up her life, the moon comes back, and the waterbenders get more powerful with the moon, which is why this guy decides to not use waterbending and just bodies this guy instead.
Oh my god, the moon is back.
After the heroes mourn the princess, where we feel absolutely nothing because we didn't get to know this character in any way, Zhao and Zuko finally have their showdown.
They look like they're about to duel in Harry Potter.
It's fucking Gilderoy Lockhart.
Iroh then tells Zuko to step away from Zhao because if he fights him, he won't get away. What? Zhao still tries to fight him, Iroh stops him, and he tells Zhao that his biggest mistake was that he stands alone.
What?
What are you talking about? He's never been alone. He's always had advisors, armies, people to do his bidding. This has never been communicated through the movie. And look, I know what they were going for, because immediately afterwards, Zhao gets uber murdered by a group of waterbenders who work together while he was by himself. I get that symbolism, but it comes out of nowhere. It's a payoff with no setup. Back to Aang, who uses his new dragon-inspired wisdom of get over it to waterbend a big wave to tell the Fire Nation to go away, which they do. Aang is escorted back down the steps, and everyone bows to him to signal their respect to the Avatar.
They left her in space.
Aang bows back to them looking like he's on the verge of tears, and we cut to one final scene of sequel bait before the movie finally, mercifully, ends. This movie is so much worse than I thought it was. I cannot tell you how far the pit of apathy goes with this entire film. It fails as a movie and as an adaptation, and that is the biggest criticism I can levy against it. The whole runtime is filled with things that happened in the show, but without any of the context that made those moments work. The heroes rescue some earthbenders from a prison, there's a statue of Avatar Kyoshi, they acquire a waterbending scroll. All of these things happen in the movie and the TV show. But the movie doesn't have any of the character motivations and conflicts that make those things important. I don't care about the fact that a waterbending scroll exists, I care about the conflict it creates. In the show, Katara grows jealous of Aang because he's such a natural waterbender and picks it up instantly, while Katara struggles with these new waterbending forms. She has to come to terms with her jealousy and spitefulness over Aang's instant mastery of the thing that defines her. But there's no emotion or character in the movie. The scroll is only used as a reference to a thing that also existed in the show, but doesn't provide any furthering of any stories, conflicts, or emotions. And that goes for its entire runtime. The movie is so concerned with filling time of things that happen in the show that it doesn't have any resolution to any of those things. Aang is captured and missing for 4 days, but there's no scenes of the other two worrying about him or even them reuniting with him when he gets back. This movie goes from A to B to C to D to E, and it doesn't let us experience that journey with the characters. It's a bullet point version of a movie. It's so concerned with cramming in an entire season of a TV show, along with all the highlights that fans like, that it doesn't have time to let any of those moments breathe, and it creates this completely superficial, empty movie. So I finally watched the last Airbender movie, and it is terrible. A massive thank you to Tempest for watching this with me. I couldn't have done it without him. Check out his links on screen and in the description below. And if you want to see the full thing of us reacting to the movie, check out the link for my new Patreon in the description. I would really appreciate any support you guys can give. I'll be back with more soon. This video was kind of a last-minute idea, but I've been working on another much larger project for a while, which will be coming soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.